My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back to Metaverse Insider. We'll get into a lot of this today. Joining me is my co-host, and that is the infamous Mr. Kyle Willson. Great to have you back.
Hey, Paul, how's it going? Happy to be here today and get into the topics.
Yeah, this is going to be crazy because this is I think there's been a lot of speculation around what Disney's play would be. Obviously, Chapek, his exit with Iger's re-entry, his play into Metaverse in the many years prior to this, his then, Web3 experience when he left Disney, really kind of sets up a lot of things that are happening here. I wanted to jump in first on this Wall Street article. This, of course, was Van Pelt's, who has been a little bit in a proxy fight with Disney. This seems to be revealed and settled now at the point of where we'll most likely see, and I think the reason, obviously, is the fact that, with Iger stepping back in and the direction kind of going the way he wants it. So now this proxy fight pretty much off the charts. And with that being the case, you've got some interesting clips here that I want to play for you, Kyle, because when we started grabbing these, I wanted your input on these. So let me play this first one. These came from the Disney Q1 earning call. Very interesting statements that Iger is talking about. Let's jump to a clip real quick.
Instead, our priority is the enduring growth and profitability of our streaming business. Our current forecasts indicate Disney Plus will hit profitability by the end of fiscal 2024, and achieving that remains our goal.
All right, so his direction, the key here is that Iger is really getting focused. Disney Plus has kind of been the push here all along. Before we get into comments on this, let me go to this next clip here because he also contends further in this.
ESPN is a differentiator for this company. It's the best sports brand in television. It's one of the best sports brands in sports. It continues to create real value for us. It is going through some obviously challenging times because of what's happened in linear programming, but the brand of ESPN is very healthy, and the programming of ESPN is very healthy. We just have to figure out how to monetize it in a continuing.
All right, so the key word there was in a disrupting way. They've been talking about rolling out a metaverse. Our theory was that this is still years away, and then they drop this right here, which is Disney to introduce its own metaverse platform, Starverse, in India. This happened just here on February 6th, India time. This is pretty interesting. There's a few statements in here I want to highlight, and then I want your opinion on what you think here. So Starverse, or Disney Star, the Indian arm of the media giant company, is set to launch the metaverse platform Starverse after having completed multiple stages of testing for the proof of concept. Launch of Starverse has been timed with the onset of the Indian Premier League. This is cricket, which is like soccer to India. And then our metaverse is called Starverse, and the first iteration of this immersive 3D ecosystem for the sports fan. Again, back to sports, which is going to be a huge focus for Disney. Then they go on to say that the first time we'll allow users to scale to enter Starverse, we wanted to roll out the final version after testing features and understanding the user behavior in the 3D ecosystem. This is the Gupta, which is the lead, and it is an always-on environment. Now, I know you and one of our CryptoPick guys are in the in Starverse right now, but what led us to a theory here is this page right here. If you look at the Starverse login, you'll notice down there on the right-hand side, for you guys viewing your screen there, you'll see Powered by Vverse right there. And before we get into why this may be connected to some very interesting Web3 companies, let's jump over into gameplay or metaverse play within this. So this obviously is the lobby that we're rolling into. And then Kyle, I think you and the team are inside further as well. So, I mean, first of all, the graphics not great here, but what's your first response to this right now?
Yeah, this is just it seems like a kind of dipping their toe into the metaverse here, exploring markets to see how they react. We've seen this with tech companies where they kind of experiment in certain demographics and markets to see, if this takes footing, hold, and how the market really adopts this type of platform. So I know Facebook used to do that in the past with certain countries before they rolled out features fully. or they could just be seeing if they're onto something here. So very interesting. Again, Bob Iger mentioning that they're focusing on markets they've launched in, and obviously the sports, as you mentioned earlier. So definitely interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I was looking at just some of the options here within, this is the private lounge theme that they've got in there. The key here is going to be how can they scale this into, whether it's a sporting component, whether they tie it into, their cricket leagues, but also how far down this may go into experiences. And there's a lot there behind this. Now, the cool thing around this, there's something that could really tie this in. And I want to show this next page right here. This is Veveverse's website. And if you'll notice, first of all, two things I want you to notice here. One is this is going to be available on web, MetaQuest, App Store, and Google Play. So that in itself tells me that this future partnership potentially, at least with what they're doing with Starverse, could be available now on MetaQuest. The other thing you'll notice there are these characters. And of course, if you guys have been watching our show much, you know what those characters are. Those are Ready Player Me characters. So, and avatars. So that in itself ties in Ready Player Me into this. So now you've got Ready Player Me, a Web3 titan. You've got a test happening in India, and you've got Bob Iger saying, we've got a new experience coming. Where do you think this is going now? Obviously this is an India test, but do you think we'll see this come to the United States soon?
Well, absolutely. We know that, for example, Veve is creating the Veveverse. They're using avatars, Ready Player Me avatars, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
And it is my opinion that avatars, obviously, kind of the sort of base building block of the metaverse here. So we could see a Disney play unfold in like the Veveverse, for example, where you have experiences and you have things to do. So again, this could be a kind of a pilot test. We've seen Disney launch accelerator programs. So this doesn't surprise me here, but very interesting to see how they focus on the quote unquote, what Bob Iger has said in launching in some of these new marketplaces like Web3.
Yeah, I'm looking at the gameplay footage that we're playing right now, just inside the metaverse. But the point is you've got all sorts of environments here. You've got access to potential possibly games within games inside the metaverse, which would get into the Indian market, I think, in an interesting way, especially around cricket. And then, of course, remember, all of this is playing into the overarching strategy of what Disney Plus is, other than just the streaming aspect. So a lot happening. I want to jump to further clip here of where Iger's also giving us a little bit more alpha. Listen to this one.
Well, the answer is yes on the theme parks in terms of their growth. I'm very, very bullish about our parks. And not just because of the COVID recovery, but to start with, demand on the parks is extraordinary right now. Now, we could lean into that demand easily by letting more people in and by more aggressively pricing. We don't think either would be smart, because we let more people in is going to reduce guest experience. That's certainly not what we want. And in fact, if you looked at our results this past holiday season, we actually reduced capacity, certainly improved guest experience, and we're able to maintain not just profitability, but very, very successful or robust bottom line.
All right, so that's further into it. He's basically saying the parks are still on core here. Then you've got the Avatar experience coming to Disneyland soon. Now, I look at this, I tie this into where the potential is for revenue in this. If you look at some of the things they talk about, he called the Avatar experience, and then said details will be coming soon. This isn't necessarily like an Avatar ride. Let me zoom in on that a little bit for you guys. This is maybe a new experience as a whole. So my question is, do they have something brewing for Metaverse with Avatar? Obviously, Avatar, supremely successful. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. With this brand and IP obviously being one of the most successful in movies, I definitely think they have a big play here. I think we'll see, augmented reality Web3 NFTs, whether it's on Veve or a platform similar. I definitely think they have a lot playing out here. We've seen them experiment with augmented reality with some of their pilot programs and some of the things they're working on. And even in park, they've even had some AR features in some of their apps as well. So I definitely think they're going to play around with this and maximize, like Bob Iger said, that bottom line to their already existing user base that already comes to their physical parks.
Here's my question to you. Do you think that Disney and maybe Vverse tied into, from an API standpoint, to Ready Player Me? I'm just wondering if Disney completely understands what is potentially going on here. I mean, obviously their lead that was talking about, in that article where they released this in India, that he seems to be on it. But remember, Iger, in some of his earnings statements, he was talking about kind of the three horsemen, the parks, the entertainment side, and sports, which is ESPN. You tie that all in, maybe the crossover of sports, entertainment starts to play into a metaverse potential. We're showing some avatar gaming there as an example, but it does leave the idea that we could be seeing a potential move into a new type of experience for Disney as a whole. I want to click on one more statement here from Iger. Listen in.
It would be a good example of that. Pandora was a great example of that. We can grow our business. In fact, if you look at the results when we put Pandora at Animal Kingdom, from year to year, they were stunning in terms of how many more people visited Animal Kingdom. I mentioned on the call that we're going to bring a version of Avatar to Disneyland. We have other opportunities as well. I've talked to Josh D'Amaro about this very recently, like this morning, again, to really look at all the great.
All right, so the thing he said there that was intriguing, it was a version of Avatar to Disneyland. So what does that look like? Will we see maybe the potential for the first real scenario? If you look at Avatar and just the performance that it has had, and I look at just the movies, the movies themselves, there's a mech coming on screen. Can you imagine NFT playing into a Disney metaverse in an Avatar experience that you could potentially tie into Ready Player Me and Vverse? So, I mean, this starts to get into some pretty crazy things. And for it to happen this fast, for what they're doing in India right there with what we saw with Starverse, very intriguing. And then if you follow the money, let's go over and look at the lifetime gross of movies. Here you go. Avatar, Avengers Endgame, Titanic, Avatar Way of Water, and then even over Star Wars right now. And these, of course, are Disney assets. And Avatar being, one of the largest. So there's clearly a huge market for this. The fan base is real. The market potential is real. And where this may be going in the future could be pretty significant. If you had that kind of thing roll out in Disney US, what do you think the impact would be on the metaverse space?
Yeah, I mean, a franchise and a movie like this it would be an incredible addition to Disney. Disney's already good at telling stories. They're already great at immersive experiences. We've seen them play around with stuff like this at their parks already with golden moments and how they have these watches that let you interact with these statues at the park. And previously just mentioned how some of their apps feature AR technology as well. I do see them building upon this and again, adding to their bottom line. It just makes sense to do NFTs in Web3, especially what they've already done on the Veve app. And I think they'll continue to do stuff on the Veve app. It just makes sense and it ties into their bottom line.
Last point I wanted to make was the potential here for the quality that could really fall into it. Here was a video from Unreal Engine on Cavrnus. And, this was just showing, let me make sure that's muted. Yeah, just showing some of the activity that they were showcasing around the Matrix video that everybody kind of looked at, almost this time last year. But the point being is, if you notice, let me kind of zoom in front of these. There's a lot of NFTs. There's an NFT right there, interaction. I mean, that right there, that's Veve. Those are animated NFTs. So you take those and start playing into an environment and then there's another NFT right there on their videos. I kind of skipped through this. But the point being is that this really opens up a lot of opportunity for revenue. This could tie quickly into Veve. Veve's deal with Disney, I think it has a couple more years running on the licensing. Do you know when that ends?
For the most part, I know at least the Marvel, I've heard it 8 to 10 years in the community. I think they've mentioned that on an AMA before. So I would assume that it's a little bit further out. Yeah, like you said, a few years at least.
So this will be interesting to see how this plays out, especially if Vivi does get involved in maybe the U.S. based side of what Disney Plus might look like. Because I think a lot of people are mistaking understanding what the vision of Iger is for Disney Plus. It's not just the streaming service itself; it's the entertainment zone all around. It's the experience outside the park, Disney Plus. So with that
100%.
being yeah, with that being the case, I think there's some great connectivity here to Vivi. I continue to think that Omi is a sleeping giant waiting to just explode. So we're going to keep an eye on that one for sure. With all the news that's been happening around ETH and this whole issue with staking, I wonder if these kinds of moves within major industry like entertainment, obviously Disney being one of the icons of Wall Street, what kind of implication this may have on scenarios for Ethereum as a baseline, especially in the sense of essentially the engine behind NFTs and how this plays out. So I don't know, because obviously Kraken's news just
Yep.
hit as we were recording this. And we did a live stream on that earlier today, but Kraken, of course, has done a deal with the SEC to shutter crypto staking operations. And this essentially is a pretty much a dead-on run right at Ethereum, I feel like. So it'll be interesting to see how this. There's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of speculation on this for sure.
Yeah, and again, just to backtrack a little bit too, is Disney, Vivi taking things slow. It appears as these things develop that this could be the best move possible is to take things slow in the metaverse, let them develop, let them play out, let these legal teams get around these situations and build for the long term. So in terms
Yep.
of strategy, I think Vivi and Disney they may be onto something here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, listen, guys, you got a chance to see some of the alpha that we do here on Metaverse Insider when we go into deep dives on these. And really, you kind of have to put this together like a puzzle when you look at what's happening within the ecosystem, because this is all still very early. There's so many companies that are going to be playing out in it. And there's a lot of companies maybe that have yet to pull together the partnerships. But I think we have some interesting things coming ahead of us here in 2023, Kyle. What's your outlook for 23?
Absolutely.
Do you think Disney pulls something stateside here?
I think they do. I think they'll continue to experiment. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Bob Iger still got to rally the Disney troops behind what he's doing as well. So, like you mentioned earlier, the three horsemen kind of leading the race here. But Bob Iger is definitely going to pull in. I think that that bottom line, which in my opinion is Web3. So they'll continue to do this stuff, and we could see some major moves here in 2023. And maybe that's a good catalyst for platforms like Vivi and things like that.
Yeah, I do. I for sure think that's going to be the case. Web3 is going to be the future, I think, with not only Disney, but a lot of the entertainment brands in general. We're already seeing this in some of the retail brands. And remember, Kyle, they're just getting started. They don't even know what they don't know yet. So, and I think that's the fun thing when you have technology like this, is it's always fun because this is the exciting time for sure. Hey, Kyle, thanks for coming in on this one for a quick video today. We appreciate it. We'll definitely get you back in on the next show. Take care.
Yep. Pleasure to join.
You bet. All right. So you guys are tuned in over on the podcast side of things. Jump in over here because you're going to get all the visual experience of Metaverse Insider and really get a chance to kind of see when we break down things here on this show, we're looking at kind of the Web3 business, the potential future of where Metaverse tokens and projects are growing. And obviously that brings in gaming, entertainment, all those kind of things happen right here. If you are not part of our Diamond Circle, because this is where we drop a lot of additional content. Kyle and I do a podcast over there. We also drop blogs, lots of inside content, research, and you also get access to some of our own CPI data. Just join the Diamond Circle over on Substack, pbn3.substack. You'll find us there. Of course, if you want to reach me, it's out there on Twitter, @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on Metaverse Insider.